A little over 2 million people are serving time in a state prison or local jail in the United States. The state of Mississippi has more inmates per capita than any other state or nation in the world. And one of the most notorious facilities in the state is the maximum security prison known as Parchman Farm.
There is something bad wrong at Parchman Penitentiary.
Mama, miss you, boy.
This place needs to be closed because, people are dying.
We tired of it, need to be shut down. That prison has done nothing but destroy and took away from society since the day they opened the doors.
We're getting ready to stop this. It's time for that to be over. And we're going to take this opportunity for the world to help us correct these wrongs.
So a new documentary about the horrors inside the facility premiered over the weekend at the Tribeca Festival. Joining us this morning is the director of Exposing Parchman, Rahman Ali Bug. So good morning, sir. Thank you for being here to talk about this.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Parchman got on the justice system's radar after a series of these deadly incidents that were involving the inmates, right? The ACLU got involved. And a lot of what we were talking about here, we can even compare to Rikers Island here in New York City. What did you discover as you kind of dove into this?
We kind of knew, before I go on, just because my mother would say, make sure your name is pronounced correct.
Oh, sorry.
It's Rahman.
Sorry.
Rahman Ali Bug, but don't worry about it. I appreciate it. I appreciate just being here. But what we discovered was a problem we kind of already knew about, but didn't know the depths of.
Right.
We knew that people were dying on a daily basis. We knew there were conditions that we didn't know about, inside of Parchman. And my job, was simply to tag along with the legal team, to help them discover what was going on inside, and to report to some degree to Roc Nation, what was going on with some of their clients. Because this all started because Roc Nation is representing a bunch of families who have loved ones who are residents of Parchman Prison. So on behalf of those families, Roc Nation launched some legal cases against the Mississippi Department of Corrections, and our documentary team was only documenting what was happening. And so what we discovered was not only the lack of care of humans, there was a lot of emotional trauma living within these families. Like if your family member's locked up, as a mom, as a sister, as a child of this person locked up, you're dealing with all those levels of what is happening with your loved one. You can't speak to them. You can't. You're looking at their bodies wither. So there was just an abundance of things that were just wrong, horrific, terrible. That we had the opportunity to expose.
Yeah. How far back did it go, this history of violence, abuse? Because I know it opened up in 1901, so did it date back that far? Or?
Yes, it did. Like the prison was modeled after a plantation. After emancipation in 1865, the governor of the state of Mississippi at that time, James Vardaman, wanted to create a prison for black men that modeled a plantation. So the history began in 1901. It continued and kept. Conditions would improve and then they get worse. The conditions would improve, then they get worse. They'd say, we'd like to take care of this population, and then over time, people would stop caring about that population. So yes, the problems began in 1901, and hopefully they will come to an end at some point.
You spoke to so many families who lost loved ones inside and really fought over the years to get it closed down, right? And so I want to play another clip about just how bad it is on the inside and then talk to you on the flip side.
We ain't got no power. We ain't got no water.
This is what we live in Parchman.
It was literally developed as a labor camp for black people to be enslaved when slavery was over.
There are black people dying in Parchman right now, black people who were dying at Parchman when it was created.
If this was an animal shelter, people would be going to jail.
Wow. I mean, when you look at that, it really tells the story here. And, like we're seeing here in New York, right? Rikers is actually going to close down supposedly in a couple of years. Have at all you seen conditions improve? Because here in New York, where the voices became louder and louder about conditions at Rikers, they made small improvements. They're not great, but small improvements. Have you seen any kind of change?
We were able to document some change, some improvements in the system in Mississippi Department of Corrections at Parchman facility, specifically in 2022. Our documentary began in 2020, right before the pandemic, and then once the pandemic hit, it exacerbated everything. So by the time 2022 rolled around, there were improvements. There are improvements, you know, inside that facility. I can't speak to those improvements. The residents inside of Parchman can speak to those improvements better than I can. The families, you know, can speak to the improvements of Parchman much better than I can. I'm positive, you know, we documented, you know, some physical improvements, you know, of the space. But like we were talking earlier, there's so many issues, you know, wrapped under the aftercare of what happens when you come out of prison.
Right.
The cost of prison, you know, making those calls to and from, you know, the prison, the health care, you know, I'm sure there are things that can be improved, you know, but I'm hopeful that there are a lot of people in Mississippi, inside the Mississippi Department of Corrections, inside the state of Mississippi, who are really working to improve the conditions of incarcerated individuals. I'm personally, I'm like the families in the film, you know, I think this place doesn't need to exist necessarily. And there are other solutions and ideas, you know, for how to deal with people who commit crime and incarcerated people specifically.
Right.
I think there's other ideas out there.
For sure.
But there have been some improvements, and we'll see how far that goes. But I think the experts are the residents of Parchman.
Well, thank you, Rahman Ali, for
Thank
coming
you.
on and